She would not come up the back steps. My dog Mira had been planted at the bottom of the deck stairs for 40 minutes by the time I called the vet. And she had been planted there in a way that I had never seen her plant herself in the 4 years I had owned her. She was a small cattle dog mix. She weighed 38 pounds. She had been rescued from a shelter when she was a year old, and had been the kind of dog who, the moment I opened the back door at the end of any day, would come up the steps so fast she would nearly knock me over. She slept at the foot of my bed. She knew the sounds of the house. She knew the routines. She knew what the back stairs were for, and she had been climbing them 3 or 4 times a day for 4 years without thinking about it. That afternoon, she was at the bottom of them, looking at me, refusing to move. I had whistled. I had called her name. I had brought a treat down. I had crouched on the second step and held my hand out to her. She had not come. She had also not run away. She was not afraid of me. She was afraid of something else. She kept her body angled toward the back fence, with her ears pricked and her nose lifted slightly, and her front paws planted in a way that meant she was holding her ground on purpose. I had finally gone back into the house and called my vet because Mira had never refused a direct command in her life, and because the look in her eyes was not a look I had ever seen before. The vet's name was Dr. Yara Castellanos. She had been Mira's vet for the 4 years I had owned her. She picked up on the 3rd ring. She listened to me describe the situation. She was quiet for a moment. Then she asked me a question that I have thought about many times since. She asked, "Lyra, who else has a key to your house?" I said, "No one, just me." She said, "Has anyone else been on the property in the last 2 days? Contractors, lawn service, a friend stopping by? Anyone?" I said, "No. I have been home alone all weekend." She was quiet again. Then she said, "Stay where you are. Do not try to bring her up. Do not approach the back fence. I am going to make a call. I am going to call you back in 3 minutes. Please pick up." She hung up before I could ask anything else. Hit subscribe. Drop your city in the comments. Stay until the end. There is a small detail I am going to tell you near the end of this video that I have not been able to tell anyone else, and I want you to hear it. Stay with me. I sat on my back step holding the phone. Mira was still at the bottom of the steps. She had not moved. The afternoon was warm. It was a Sunday in late June. The grass needed to be cut. The hummingbird feeder was empty, and I had been meaning to refill it. The yard, in every other way I had been registering it for the last 4 years, was a yard. The phone rang 2.5 minutes later. Dr. Castellanos said, "Lyra, I am going to ask you to do something. I am going to ask you to not ask me why until the people I have just called arrive at your house. The people I have just called are coming from the sheriff's office. They will be there in about 11 minutes. While we are waiting, I would like you to stay on the phone with me. I would like you to not move from the step you are sitting on. I would like you to keep talking to Mira in the voice you usually use with her. I would like you to not look at the back fence, and I would like you to not try to figure out by yourself what she is reacting to. Can you do that for me?" I said, "Yara, you are scaring me. What is happening?" She said, "I am almost certain she is doing scent detection on something living. I have worked with search and rescue dogs for 14 years on weekend rotations. The way she is holding her body and the way she has refused the steps is not an injury or a fear response. It is a signal. The signal is that she has located something she has been told by every part of her training to bring to a human's attention. The training is built into her breed. The training is also built into her individual experience with you, because she has spent 4 years learning that you respond to her. She is responding to you in the only way she knows how. She is asking you to come look. I am asking you not to come look until the sheriff's deputies are with you. There are reasons. I will tell you the reasons in 11 minutes. Please stay where you are. I stayed where I was. I talked to Mira. I told her she was a good girl. I told her I knew she was trying to tell me something. I told her help was coming. I do not know if any of it meant anything to her. She kept her body angled toward the back fence. She did not move. The deputies arrived in 9 minutes, 2 of them. They came around the side of the house through the gate, which I had unlatched by reaching through the kitchen window. They were carrying flashlights and they had their hands near their belts, but not on them. They were calm. They looked at Mira. They looked at me. The older of the 2, a woman named Deputy Maren Halverstad, said, "Miss Cantrell, stay where you are. We are going to take a look." They walked across the yard. They did not approach the back fence. They went instead to the side of the deck. They got down on their knees. They shined their flashlights into the dark space underneath the back deck of my house, the space I had been meaning to put lattice around for the last 2 summers and had never gotten to. The older deputy said, very quietly, "Sweetheart, my name is Maren. I am with the sheriff's department. You are safe. Can you come out?" There was no answer for a long second. Then there was a sound, a small one, a sound that, even from where I was sitting on the step, I could identify as the sound of a child. Deputy Halverstad said, "It is okay. You are not in trouble. Your mama has been looking for you for 2 days. Can you come out so I can take you to her?" A 6-year-old girl crawled out from under my back deck. She was wearing a yellow shirt that had once been clean. Her hair was tangled. Her face was streaked with dirt and tears that had dried and been cried again. She was carrying a small stuffed elephant. She was barefoot. She was alive. Mira, who had not moved for 43 minutes, broke her stance the moment the child was in the open. She walked over to the child slowly. She sat down in front of her. She did not jump on her. She did not lick her. She sat down and she looked up at the child's face, and she stayed there. The child sat down on the grass. She put her arms around Mira's neck. She started crying in the way children cry when they have stopped crying for a long time and have just remembered they are allowed to. Deputy Halverstad called something into her radio. A second car arrived a few minutes later. A paramedic came around the side of the house with a small medical bag. He knelt down by the child. He spoke to her in a soft voice. He gave her a small juice box and a packet of crackers. He took her temperature. He listened to her chest. He talked to her the entire time. I sat on the back step, and I did not understand any of what was happening yet. I had been sitting on the step for an hour. I had called my vet about a dog who would not come inside. There was now a missing child in my backyard. Deputy Halverstad came over to me. She sat down on the step next to me. She said, "Ms. Cantrell, the child's name is Coraline Pelletier. She is 6 years old. She lives on Sage Road, 3 streets from here. She was reported missing 31 hours ago. She left a community park in the neighborhood with a man none of the parents at the park recognized. The man was driving a small gray car. We had an Amber Alert active for her since last night. She has been the subject of a multi-agency search since 6 this morning. Volunteers have been searching the woods on the other side of Sage Road. Helicopters have been over the area twice. Nobody had any reason to think she would be in this neighborhood. We need to talk to her about what happened, but we cannot do that yet. She is dehydrated. She is in shock. She needs to be reunited with her mother first. Her mother is on her way here right now. The paramedic is going to take her to a place where her mother can meet her in private. I am telling you this because in about 30 seconds, her mother is going to come around the side of your house, and what you are about to see is going to be one of the more important things you ever see, and I want you to be ready for it. I also want you to know, Ms. Cantrell, that your dog has just done something that almost no other dog in this neighborhood would have done. Your dog smelled a child she did not know was there, under a deck she had been walking past for 4 years, and she refused to leave the yard until somebody listened to her. Your dog is the reason this little girl is going home tonight. I am going to need to take a statement from you in a little while. For now, I just need you to stay on this step and to be a witness to what is about to happen." The mother came around the side of the house 30 seconds later. I am not going to describe the next 2 minutes in detail because they do not belong in a video. I will tell you that Coraline saw her mother first. Coraline made a sound I have not been able to forget. The mother saw Coraline. The mother got to her in 3 steps. She picked her up. She held her. She did not let go. The paramedic gave them a few minutes. Mira stayed close to them, sitting on the grass, watching, not interfering. The mother eventually noticed Mira. She looked at me on the step. She came over to me, still holding Coraline, and she sat down next to me on the back step. And she cried, and I cried, and Mira put her head on the mother's foot. The mother said, after a long minute, "What is your dog's name?" I said, "Mira." The mother said, "Coraline. Can you say thank you to Mira?" Coraline turned her face away from her mother's neck. She looked at Mira. She said in a very small voice, "Thank you, Mira." Mira's tail thumped on the grass. Twice. Then she put her head back down on the mother's foot. The investigation that came out of that afternoon produced a list of facts that I have spent the last 14 months processing. I am going to tell you the parts I am allowed to tell you. The man who had taken Coraline at the park was the boyfriend of a woman who lived 4 houses down from me on the same street. The woman did not know what her boyfriend had done. The boyfriend had taken Coraline because she had been alone for a moment at the park, while her older sister had been playing on the slide. He had put Coraline in his car. He had driven her back to his girlfriend's house, 4 houses down from mine. He had taken her into the basement. He had been holding her there for 30 hours. Coraline had escaped at some point in the early afternoon of the day Mira refused to come up the steps. The girlfriend had let her dog out into the backyard. The basement had a window. The window had not been latched correctly. Coraline had climbed up onto a shelf. She had pushed the window open. She had crawled out. She had run in the direction the streets had taken her, until she had hit a fence she could not climb. The fence had been my back fence. She had crawled along it until she had found a gap that led under my deck. She had crawled under. She had fallen asleep. She had been there for, by the medical examination, somewhere between 3 and 5 hours by the time Mira had refused to come up the steps. The man was arrested at the girlfriend's house that evening. The girlfriend was questioned and released. She did not know. She has since left him. She has since moved away. The man took a plea. He is in a state facility serving a sentence I am not going to specify because there are other charges still being processed. Coraline is fine. She is, by every measure her family has been able to take of her in the last 14 months, fine. She is in 1st grade. She has a different stuffed elephant now. She also still has the original one. Both of them go to school in her backpack every day. Her mother and I have become friends. The family lives 3 streets away. They come for dinner once a month. Coraline plays with Mira in my backyard. Mira lets her ride her like a small horse, which Mira would not let anyone else do. The mother has cried in my kitchen 4 times in the last 14 months. I have cried in hers twice. We have both decided this is a thing we are going to do. Now I want to tell you the small detail I have not told anybody else. The morning before all of this happened, I had been planning to put Mira in the kennel for 2 weeks. I had been called away work. A trial I had been working on for 4 months had had its schedule moved up by the judge, and I was going to need to be in the office for the next 2 weeks straight, including weekends, including evenings. Mira was a dog who could not be alone for that many hours a day. I had called the kennel that morning, and I had reserved her a spot. I had been planning to drop her off Monday morning. I had told her about it that morning, the way you tell a dog about a thing as if she can understand. I had said the words Monday and kennel and 2 weeks in front of her, knowing she could not understand, but feeling like I needed to apologize anyway. If I had not had Mira in the backyard that Sunday afternoon, Coraline would have been under the deck for another 2 weeks. The temperature that week was forecast to drop on Tuesday. There was rain expected on Wednesday. The space under the deck had small openings, but it was insulated by the deck itself, which would have kept Coraline warmer than the yard, but which would also have kept her hidden from anyone who walked by. There were no other dogs on my street. The neighbors who had a dog had taken him with them on a vacation that weekend. Nobody else's dog would have walked into my yard and found her. Mira was the only dog on the entire block who was going to be in a position to find her, and I had been about to put Mira in a kennel for 2 weeks. I do not want to think about what would have happened if I had reserved that kennel spot for the previous Friday instead of for the Monday after. I have thought about it anyway. I have thought about it more than I am proud of. The deputy who took my statement told me 2 days later, when she stopped by to bring me a thank you card from the sheriff's office, that the medical estimate for Coraline's window of survival under those conditions was 72 hours. 2 more days. I have been a public defender for 11 years. I work with juveniles. I work, almost every day, with children who have been hurt by adults. I am not the kind of person who is unfamiliar with the math of how these things go. I knew, the moment Deputy Halverstad sat down on my step and told me what had happened, exactly how close it had been. There is one thing I have been thinking about for 14 months. And I want to leave you with it because I have not figured out how to leave it anywhere else. We share our houses with animals whose intelligence is structured differently than ours. They smell what we cannot smell. They hear what we cannot hear. They notice what we are not paying attention to. We have spent thousands of years living alongside them, and in the last 100 or so years, we have largely stopped consulting them. We have started treating them as decorative. We have started training them to fit our lives instead of paying attention to what their lives are telling us. We have done this so completely that when one of them refuses to come up a set of stairs, our first instinct is to assume the dog is being difficult, and our second instinct is to call a vet to find out what is wrong with the dog. The thing that was wrong with the dog was that the dog was smarter than I was that afternoon. The dog had information I did not have. The dog was trying to give me the information in the only way she knew how, which was to refuse the routine and wait for me to notice. The vet, who had spent 14 years on weekend rotations with search and rescue programs, was the one person in my contact list who would have known to ask the question she asked. Who else has a key to your house? The question was not about my house. The question was about whether anyone besides me had been on the property recently, because the answer to that question would help her interpret what Mira was telling me. I have started, in the last 14 months, paying more attention to Mira. I do not always know what she is telling me. I have not had another emergency. I have, however, started to notice the small things she has been doing for me my whole time with her that I had been ignoring. The way she stands by the front door before my brother calls, 4 times out of 5. The way she goes to the upstairs window when a particular neighbor is walking down the street. The way she puts her head on my knee on the days I am working a case that is harder than the ones I usually work, before I have realized myself that the day is going to be harder. She has been doing all of this the whole time. I had been treating her like a piece of furniture that needed to be fed. I would like to ask you, very quietly, to do one thing this week if you have an animal in your house. Watch them for a day. Not in the way you usually watch them. Pay attention to where they go and when. Pay attention to what they refuse. Pay attention to what they walk away from and what they sit down next to. They are processing your house in a language you do not speak, and they have been trying to tell you about it for as long as they have been with you. Most of what they are telling you is small. Some of it is not. The small stuff is worth listening to anyway, because the small stuff is the practice that makes you ready on a Sunday afternoon in June when one of them refuses to come up the steps for the first time in 4 years. Mira is asleep on the floor next to my desk as I am finishing this. She is 8 years old now. Coraline is going to start 2nd grade in 3 weeks. The man is in a state facility. The mother is finishing a degree in social work she had stopped halfway through 10 years ago. The girlfriend, whose name is Briar, sent me a letter 6 months ago that I am not going to describe. I wrote her back. We have been corresponding since. She is doing her own work to figure out how she did not see what was happening in her own basement. I do not have answers for her. I have been telling her that the question itself is a kind of work, and that it counts. The kennel I had reserved Mira for is no longer in business. It closed last fall. I do not know why. I have been thinking about that too. There are a lot of small things in this story that did not have to land the way they did. Most of them landed in the right place. One of them did not land at all and is still in a state facility because of it. The thing I am most grateful for, on balance, is the smallest one. It is the thing I have been thanking every morning when she comes up the back steps for 14 months. She comes up the steps now. Every time. The first time without thinking about it. I notice every time.